Yay, it's Mikli. I am super, super excited to have you on. I'm a huge fan of your work. I think I've like fangirled about you before and on Instagram as well. So I'm really excited to have you on as a fellow lover of all things automated and data. I'm really excited to have you on to talk to the terrain community about how they can be automating some of their funnels and saving themselves um, hours of their day. And yeah.
I'm so excited to be here and excited to talk about the automation I'm talking about today is your opt-in. So how do you get people um, from your website to fill out a form and then end up on your email list with like your PDF? Yeah.
Fantastic. So it's pretty much like 101, what everybody needs to have in place at the very least.
hmm
Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Okay. I will start. Let me share my screen. Okay, here we go. So this automation, how does it work? We want people to be able to enter their name and email address on your website. In exchange, they get your lead magnet and you in their inbox. So I might use lead magnet and opt-in interchangeably, but that's the same. It's your PDF and then they get it. They opt in on the form and they get your lead magnet inside. Okay. So for this tutorial, I am using ActiveCampaign and setting it up so that a PDF is your lead magnet. There are different ways, but this is what I'm walking you through now. So you had me at hello, first name. The first thing we're going to want to do is prep our ingredients. So, oh, sorry, rewind a little bit. Here we go. Um, the first thing I do is I like to write out the flow. How do people flow through the automation? That just kind of grounds me and gives me like, okay, these are the pieces that I'm gonna have to connect. So for this particular one, it's people flow from the website to the form and then to the emails. So those are like the three major pieces. Okay, so over here, first thing I want to do, I want to prep our ingredients because we're going to start connecting these later. So we have to have the things that we're going to connect. The first thing is creating your PDF download link. Now, because ActiveCampaign doesn't have like a native attachment option, we're just going to have to upload the PDF to Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever that you have, and then set the sharing to public or viewable and then save that link. We'll use it in an email later. And then after you have that, we want to create our tags, lists, and form an ActiveCampaign. So I'll give you a copy of this. You can take a look at this so that you can reference it. But for each tag, there's a reason for each tag. So the opted in lead magnet tag, that's going to trigger our welcome series. When people get tagged with this, that starts like the welcome emails. The newsletter do not email tag is while they're getting your welcome emails, we don't want them to get your regular like weekly broadcasts just so they're not spammed with all the emails. Or if you suddenly have a sale going on and these people don't know who you are yet, we don't want to be like, oh, who this? Okay. So this tag will be playing with this in the automation to make sure new people aren't getting the weekly stuff. And then these two, the list and the form, some integrations will require a list and form. So um, yes. And also having a list and active campaign makes it easy to email people because when you do email like your weekly newsletter, you choose a list. So you can just say, okay, everybody who's ever opted in, there they are. And then a form is similar. A form is just kind of, well, it's a form with the fields, right? So the entry point. And again, some website platforms, if you want to integrate with them, require an active campaign form for their integrations. I'll walk you through how to do each of these now. So to create your tags, you want to log into your active campaign and then you go to contacts and then manage tags. So over here, you just kind of type it in one line at a time. So I said, what did I say? Opted in. Yes, opted in. Opted in lead magnet and newsletter. do not email. So over here, I'm done with my tags. I'll get to them later. Over here in lists, let me just move this. To create a new list, you would just go to lists and then add a list. And then you can just name it with your lead magnet. List URL is your website URL. And then the description is like, you know how if people are like, why am I getting this email? Oh, you're getting this email because you signed up for my lead magnet over at heymikli.com or something like that, right? So that's kind of that's the quick setup here. And then so we've got the two tags, we've got the list. To set up the form, we go over to site and then forms and then create the form. And lead magnet. And what you can do here when you create the form, it asks for the action. So I say add a tag, and then we add the tag that we just made, like the opted in lead magnet tag. Quickly, I'll just refresh this because then the tag wouldn't have population. 2 seconds. Okay, so we're here, sites, forms, create a form, lead magnet. And then the action that I want is when somebody fills out the form, they get tagged with their tag that we just made. There we go. When you're in here, you can customize the form, add in more fields, and then here you go, fields. And that is it for our prep the ingredients step. The next thing we want to do is this form, we want to connect it to the website. So this is one way of connecting the form and your website. This is the one I'm going to talk about now because you can do it. It's applicable to everyone, I believe, or like 99% of the cases. There are other ways to do it, depending on the platforms that you have and your level of techiness. But this is the most straightforward way to do it. When your form is ready, click on integrate and then grab either of these embeds. I'm going to use this only because it shows the preview when I paste it. So it's easier to see. So I'm going to copy this link, this code. And then on my website, so I use Squarespace, but whatever website you have, there is likely going to be an option to insert a code block. So this is Squarespace. I'm going to click plus and then code. And then I'm going to paste that embed code that I just copied. And there's the form as it appears in ActiveCampaign. So now when people fill out this form on my website, they enter their name and email, they're going to get the tag because we set that as the action earlier. They're going to get the opted in lead magnet tag, right? So now that our form and is connected to our website and it's connected to the tag, the last thing we have to do, the last thing left to do is creating the welcome automation. So when somebody gets that tag, what happens next? So to create this automation, we would just go here, log into ActiveCampaign, click on automations, and then create new automation. And then here we go. I'll walk you through setting up the whole thing. The first thing we want to do is trigger the automation. So what starts this is when somebody gets the tag opted in lead magnet name. So add a trigger, tag is added. Oh, continue. And then there we go. Opt in. It's going to ask if you want to run it once or multiple times. This means that um, every time somebody, do you want it to be that every time somebody gets the tag, i.e., every time somebody fills out the form, they get the welcome email, or just once? Like if they fill out the form twice, they won't get the email the second time. So that's up to you. Some I like to say multiple times. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe they lost their lead magnet the first time and they want to get it again. Has happened to me. So I just say multiple times and then start. And then we send an email. You can create a new email, but I'm just going to use sample email over here. Oh, sorry, I didn't read my own. I didn't read my own tutorial. Before we do that, we want to exclude new subscribers from receiving the regular newsletters. So I'll just go through this. So as soon as they enter, we don't want them to be receiving our broadcast. So that's where we're going to use the newsletter do not email tag. So after the trigger and before the first email, we're gonna wanna tag them. So contacts, add a tag, and you're going to add our newsletter. Do not email tag. So now, when you do send out your newsletters, be sure to exclude anybody with this tag. So as long as they have this tag, they're not gonna get your email. So now that we have that and we sent an email, we can wait and then just repeat that. Add a wait, say conditions and workflow, wait. Maybe you want to wait one day, so they get one email sequence, one email a day in the sequence. And after that day, we can send another email. And so on and so forth down the line. Maybe this one you want to wait for 2 days. Or you want to wait, for example, you don't want them to receive emails on a weekend. You can say, wait until specific conditions are met, and current day of uh, current day of the week, I believe, is a weekday. So it skips Saturday and Sunday, right? So you can do this down the line, wait one day, wait until conditions are met. And then after your final email, I keep skipping. Yes. Remember that remember that download link we saved earlier for your PDF. Just make sure it's in here. That's like the yeah, just link to the PDF in your emails, maybe several times if needed, but that's really all you'll have to do so that people get your lead magnet. And after all of this is sent, we want them, they've gone through it so they can receive our emails again. We're going to remove the do not email tag. So over here, contacts, remove a tag, newsletter, do not email, and then finish it off. We'll add this automation. Oops. There, conditions and workflow, and this automation. Turn it on. And then once this is on, before you go like live and tell people about it, run through it once, go to your website, um, sign up for your own lead magnet and see that it's working okay. And then after that, you can tell people all about it. So this is the basic flow of setting up your opt-in. Sorry, let me just close these. Now there are a few other ways to change it up. Should I walk through these, or we can leave it as extra tutorials? Because I'm more, yeah. What do you think?
It's up to you. I mean, we have a link to this, and are we able to point people to come here to check it out?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, perfect.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
but
we can
these
do that.
three quickly, I can just quickly talk about how, like, overview of each of these, because these may not apply to everyone. So
Yeah, for sure.
the basic flow is going to work, but this one, for example, is if you want your opt-in to be, instead of a PDF, you want someone to book a call with you. Maybe it's a discovery call or something like that. Um, Instead of having a form on your website, you would have a button, and that button will link to a page that has like your schedule, like a calendar, and then people can book your available times. Um, After they book a time, we're gonna link it similarly to ActiveCampaign so that they get your welcome emails. So this is just the remix for that. This one is if you want to get a new subscriber a notification every time you get a new subscriber. This one just links the Active Campaign automation over to Slack. So every time somebody enters my automation, I get a little Slack message. I get to celebrate a little bit, especially when you're starting out and the list is small. It's just like, oh, this is so new. So you can do that one.
Yeah, we
And
definitely
then
do
the
that on the
last,
terrain side. So every single
yeah.
time, every time somebody signs up on terrain, every time somebody's like on our newsletter, makes a purchase, we have a wins channel and there's like a confetti thing that goes off with gifts every time it happens.
Yeah, I like celebrating in real time. It's just like, and the first
100%.
one is always like the big ones. Like, oh my god, a stranger
I
signed
love
up.
it.
It's not just my mom who I forced to sign up. Um, and the last thing here is if you want to sell a mini offer in your welcome series. Um, so they opt in for something free, and then in the welcome series, maybe you're selling like a $50 thing. Um, this one just kind of walks you through two main things to think about, which is after they purchase, we want to pull them out of the pitch email so that they're not getting pitched for something they already have, and how to enter them into a new sequence, which is the welcome sequence for the offer. So those are these three, and you'll have access to this as I walk through all of those. And yes, that is it from my presentation.
This was so great. Thank you so much for your time. And I love that you're sharing this with everybody on terrain because I know they're gonna geek out on all of this awesomeness. For any of the copywriters listening in, the automations on Active are great because you can get a ton of data on how everything's performing. I'm personally a huge, huge fan of ActiveCampaign as well. I literally have a love letter to ActiveCampaign on our blog, but I want to hear from you, from your perspective. Why do you recommend ActiveCampaign, and to who do you recommend ActiveCampaign?
Active campaign, I love it because it's like painting. I don't know. It's like I have a palette of colors, and if I can think it, I can make it. It's the most flexible that I've worked with so far. The downside is it comes with like a steep learning curve. If you're coming in for the first time, you're like, what are all of these? But you know, it just kind of takes some getting used to their language, like how they think. Like an automation is, anything that is triggered by something and runs as soon as the trigger runs. A campaign is if you're on ConvertKit, a campaign is a broadcast. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like you get used to their terminology and how they work. But after that, it's really like the possibilities are endless. Like, oh, I wanna add, a score to people who enter this thing, but then subtract it if they do this other thing. Like you can just do whatever. And for me, it's just so much fun. And okay, the tracking also. But the biggest draw for me is just being able to create, and everything that I do is like a remix, and Active Campaign allows me to do that. You can connect it to Zapier, you can connect it to, and it integrates with so many other
Yeah.
tools also. So while it connects to Zapier really well, it also connects to um, form platforms. It connects to checkout platforms natively, and I prefer a native or a direct integration. If I don't have to go through Zapier, I won't, just because there are fewer moving parts. So it's also it's a, what do you call it? It's a platform that many other platforms connect with. So that's really helpful when building automations. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And the great thing about ActiveCampaign is it's almost the same cost as MailChimp, which is kind of ridiculous to me
Oh,
because what they bring to table is just so much better than MailChimp. So this episode was not sponsored by ActiveCampaign, although I should probably reach out to them and ask. Okay, so this funnel was fantastic. And I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of entrepreneurs starting off because you kind of walked people through the basics of everything they really need to know on ActiveCampaign just to get started. And honestly, from what Mikli showed you today, you can go ahead and apply that to your sales emails as well, because it's really the same thing. So if you're new to ActiveCampaign, watch this tutorial and it should help you get started. But kind of going beyond that, what's one thing that you think every entrepreneur should have automated?
well, if it's not this, if it's not your opt-in, I would say anything that you're doing something of lots of times. Okay, so maybe if you're a service-based business, and you're not in, you don't have an email list. I was like that for like the past 4 years. This is the first year I've had an email list. Um, and I've been referral based. But the thing that I had to do a lot of was create, like when somebody signs as a new client, I have to create the invoice, I have to create the contract, then I have to create the new folders, and then I'll send it all to them. And I know it takes me 15 minutes, but I end up procrastinating all day. So that I eventually automated. It's like, oh wow, I can just fill out a form with these with this new client's details, and I'm done. Like, oh, okay, I don't have to procrastinate anymore because the robots do it for me. Um, if you have, for example, mm, what other things? I think so. That I think that's it. Depending on your business model, what are you doing a lot of that maybe is annoying, or you're doing is tedious, and you don't want to keep doing it anymore, and um, yeah, so for service based and for coaches, I would automate like your invoicing, anything that requires an email, right? So if it's a new opt-in, you want them to get a confirmation email. If it's a new purchase, you want them to get a welcome email. So anything that requires like immediate emails, I would automate that right away. Um, I don't want them to say, "Hey, can you wait 24 to 48 hours?" And that's when you'll know if your $2,000 payment came through. Like, I don't want that to be a thing.
Yeah, that's
Like, yeah.
ridiculous. No, if anyone has that problem in 2021, I would be very concerned.
So yeah, anything that, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but for me, anything that you don't want to do anymore, that's the first thing on my to do to automate list.
No, I love it. So anything you don't want to do anymore, anything that you feel like you're procrastinating, anything that you think the robots can take care of, you can automate. I
Mhm.
love it. So speaking of what the robots can take care of, let's talk about your tech stack. So I'm sure you have
Yeah.
like a ton of great automations going on. Can we get like a little bit of an insight behind the scenes at Hey Mikli?
Okay. Ironically, I don't have a lot of tech because as service the because I build the stuff for other people, they have a lot of tech. My tech stack is Active Campaign, which I love, and I have a bajillion like inactive automations because I just use it to play. I'm the same with Zapier. I have Zapier in case something doesn't have a direct integration with something. Um, I have ThriveCart, which is what I use to now, instead of invoicing clients with like a PDF,
Yeah.
uh, we use ThriveCart. Um, Paperform is my what do you call it? Like when somebody fills out a form for me, I use Paperform instead of Typeform only because the paid version of Paperform was cheaper than the paid version of Typeform. That's where I started a few years ago. But you get the same paid features, but it's also really pretty. Um, you can style the form with like using blocks, right? You can add a picture, you can brand it. So that's what I've been using. And Sign Now is my contract signing software. So whenever a new client books, what I like about Sign Now is that I can generate a sign link So instead of hello sign sending the email, for example, I have a sign link from Sign Now that I can put in the email in ActiveCampaign. Just click here to sign the contract. And every time somebody clicks on it, it generates a unique contract. I mean, it generates a new one.
Oh, that's
And then they
genius.
fill it out. And then I connect that, for example, to you. An example of how I use it is after they sign the contract, a Zap will tag them that the contract has been signed. And when they get that tag, then they move forward in my automation. Cool, you signed the contract. Here are next steps. And I don't have to be the one to do that. Um, and then the G Suite. Yes, the G Suite, which I use ubiquitously. Everybody has a folder. I have a ton of documents inside. And I don't know if this counts as my tech stack, but this is my latest experiment. I've been playing with Notion, um, which is another thing that had like a learning curve. I really sat with it. But right now, I'm using it as a project management tool with the team. Because the nice thing about it is each one of my team members has their own dashboards and they can see the information they want in the way that they want it. Um, because, for example, with Trello, which I used for a while and tried, you determine the structure. Okay, these are the columns and these are the cards that go in the columns, and this is the only way you drag them. And sometimes my mind will change 2 minutes later. Oh, I don't want to sort it by status. I want to sort it by person. Oh no, but now I want to sort it by client. And I was like, nah, I couldn't. So Notion allows me to change the views without affecting my team's views. They can sort it however they want. And I've been also using it as a client portal. So I create a page for a client, it's client facing, and then I share that link with them. And anytime we create something or we have meeting notes, meeting agenda, they just go in the portal. I mean, okay, the low tech way is a Google Drive folder. This just kind of looks pretty. I can create a link for it, like let's say heymikli.com/terrain. And then that will be terrain's client portal. That's the only link they have
Right.
to remember. And then yeah, so that's the latest toy in my tech stack. I'm not saying it's like an essential, but I'm playing with it, and I think that's it. My tech stack is really small.
No, I mean, I'm sure that's a fair bit more than most entrepreneurs. But no, I'm also super excited about Notion. I was actually creeping on your Insta stories when you were working on Notion, and I'm like, this looks interesting. So that's also my latest toy. I'm experimenting on the back end. It does have a little bit of a learning curve.
Made a Notion, the one that I'm
Yeah,
using
I
now.
noticed. I'm
The
like, that is gorgeous. So okay, since we've been talking about all the automations you have, can we talk about the most complicated thing you have ever automated?
yes, okay. So I had a client where they're a service-based client and they were doing everything manually. So the payment was coming in. After the payment comes in, that was like the last automated thing they were doing. Um, so they used to be like, okay, there's a new client. We will add them to a sheet and give them a client number. So they'll manually, manually add one to the previous client's number. And then we put them in here. Oh, they bought X number of credits. So we have to write that down. And then the credits have to expire X months after they purchase. So we put that down. And then they'll email to the client. Oh, this was also automated, but they email the client with links to, okay, fill out this onboarding form and the form for our project. But after they fill that out, they have to then they put the link in the what do you call it, in the Google sheet. So that whole thing they came to me because like every day we are doing this and we are not copywriting. So I have for them I created a series of like monster zaps. Oh, yes. A series of monster zaps that I wanted it to take as few steps for them as possible. So when a new client comes in now, um, it's just let's see if I remember all the steps. A new client comes in, and then they're added to ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign asks if they're a new client or a recurring client. If they're a new client, they're added as a new row in the database. If they're a recurring client, they don't get added as a new row. But if they bought new credits, because that's their model, like you buy credits, Then it hunts for their name and then adds the credits to their balance and updates their expiration date. And then after that, they fill out the form for their onboarding form. And then when they fill that out, it gets zapped into the sheet. A document is created out of that form. Oh, sorry, rewind. When a new client is there and they're added to the sheet, new folders are created for them in Google Drive, internal and external. So an internal folder is where um, my clients and their contractors draft all of the material. The external folder has all of their deliverables. And it also creates a summary document for this client, which also happens automatically because they wanted a portal for the client to be able to log into and see how many credits they had left. But any other piece of software that I found was like, what, $300 a year just for that? So we created a Zap where every time the credit balance is updated, a Google Doc is updated in their client folder so they can just see, okay, now I have 50, now I have 45. And then that just kind of like auto updates every time they buy or use credits. Um, So they have the client folders, things go into the folders automatically. When they have a new project, it goes into another sheet, like the request for a project goes into a sheet. And then this is a little bit manual. They review the project. And once it's confirmed, they write down confirmed. And that project is emailed, a confirmation is emailed, a confirmation email is sent to the client saying, okay, this is your project, this is how many credits it's going to use, um, and you can expect it by this date. It sends an email to the writer, okay, you have confirmed you are the writer of this project, and then it pulls from all the other folders that we made. Here's the um, client brief, here's the project brief, here's the deadline, here's everything that you need. And then when the right and then that goes to a Trello board for them because that's how they manage their work. And then with all of the information on the Trello board. So at this point, all the client had to do was check on the project. Nothing has happened. That's the only manual thing so far. And then when they're done and it's ready for review, the client after the client reviews it, they just kind of enter the client number or is it the client email address in an internal form. And that what that does is it creates a copy of the draft and puts it in the external client folder. It grabs the link of that, sends it to ActiveCampaign, emails the client, here's your deliverable, and you can find all of your deliverables in your folder. Yes, and that's the automation.
Um, I think my jaw is actually on the floor right now because I think you just built a project manager with Zapier. A full head. You took a job away from someone. That is a ton of work. That's insane. That's incredible. I think
So
like go ahead.
yes. Oh no, the so it wasn't completely the two manual things that they had to do was check every day for the new project and confirm,
Mm-hmm.
and then put the project number. I think that's what they had to do.
I mean, compared to like everything that was automated, I mean that's nothing at all. That's crazy. I think everybody who's listening to this is going to be trying to hire you. I hope you have a wait list. But on that note, where can listeners go to learn more about you and your work, and how can they connect with you / learn from you?
Ah, of course, my website is heymikli.com, and I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram at Hey Mikli. I love chatting, so just send me a DM. Uh, yeah. Uh, right now, I have two main offers. One is where I build a system for you from scratch, which is what I did. The one that I talked about, that was that offer, right? We look at what you want to happen. So we don't talk tech. When we talk about, okay, what do you want to happen? And I'm just going to figure out the tech that makes that happen. Or the second offer is a chief tech officer situation where it's a recurring monthly intensive. So in the first month, I'm going to do an audit, take a look at everything you have in your business, and recommend recommendations. I recommend, here's what we can tackle for months 2 and 3. And in months 2 and 3, we just meet once a month. We have a standing meeting. And then we talk about, okay, touch base. These are the goals for the month. Are these still the projects that we want to tackle? And then it's usually like on a Monday. And then throughout the week, we work on all the mini projects, intensive styles. And then on Friday, I turn them over to you. And then that's our intensive for the month. We keep in touch through Voxer in between in case you have ideas, you want to brainstorm, you want to troubleshoot. And then we do it again the next month. So that one is like the chief tech officer um, offer, where instead of me just looking at one of your offers, I'm looking at your business as a whole and the big picture, and how do we get the tech to, you have the goals and the vision, and again, it's more of how do I make the tech work so that you hit those goals. And the goals can be like, um you know I want to increase my revenue to XYZ, but I've also had other people like, I don't want to make more money this year. I just want to work less. It's like we can do that. We can. So it's depend. It depends. Or it's like maybe I have back to back launches and we are burning out. We are crispy fried. We're like, it's okay. We'll take care of it. So it depends on what you want. Then we can make the tech work for you. And those are the two main offers. The last thing is where you're going to see the tutorial now. I'm going to be adding more tutorials and interactive workshops. So that's less of like the service space and more of the fun stuff. Yeah, there. Tutorials and workshops, hot seats. I'll be adding them to the website that you have access to now. So
I love it.
play.com. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure that's in the chat. And we're also going to have this tutorial hosted on Terrain. So people can find all of those links in the descriptions over there. And we will link to all things Mikli in the description.
Yay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I know we went a little bit over, but I so appreciate this. And I know people would have learned so much. And ActiveCampaign is just going to see a flood of new customers. But yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun. And
Of course. Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm so excited.
Thank you. Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you. Okay. Bye.